Hello everyone. Today's reflection is going to be a comparison between my pursuit as a footballer, as a teenager, and my hobby now as a competitive ballroom and Latin dancer. So here goes. Many football fans consider their sport to be a global language, and if by language you mean, the mode of expression with self-contained rules that is understood by several people, then yes, I agree. There's hardly a corner of the world where you would not find a group of boys playing by some street corner or park or brownfield site, or walk past a bar or cafe or pub on a match day that is not broadcasting a game, or attend some party, dinner, wedding, where you would manage to avoid that annoying group of guys bringing down the feeling of the happy feeling of the room because they're gnawing away too seriously at some football result. In my own office, it is sometimes difficult to get work done when the members of my team are frequently tagging against each other about this coach's decision and that player's performance. Then, of course, if you're struggling to break the ice at some networking event, there is always the Messi versus Ronaldo debate to fall upon. Even non-football fans have an opinion on this. Yes, football really is a global language. In that, however, it has lost something very precious. And in order to explain what it is, I'll share a little bit about, the end of my football journey. I arrived at university a few years ago. Well, it's not a few years. It's about a good decade and a half ago. Let's just say as a failed footballer. In hindsight, my chances were much lower than I thought at the time. In my teens, I was regarded as a decent talent with promise. I played for my local club, toured Europe in the hope of being scouted, trained daily through almost all my after-school days, but it was not to be. The breakthrough call from a scout never came, and at the late age of 18, that is late if you're going to be scouted, I knew that there was little hope thereafter. With my spirit genuinely crushed with failure, I went to university instead. University, the dry and depressing academic afterlife in Hades, after years of promising but fruitless sport in the world up above. I could not play in the park with my friends without reviving the pain of failure, and in the end I just stopped playing football altogether. I felt that it was the only way I could let go and move on. What I did not expect was that I would soon be resurrected and wed to another life-giving ambition. Something else would replace football and be my next spouse of passion into my adulthood. The first major event on anyone new going to university, a fresher, on their calendar upon joining university is what's called the Freshers' Fair. One surveys all the clubs and societies like scanning the aisles of a large retail store for whatever you're looking for, the right jumper. The options are expansive, from politics to every kind of sport, through to most conventional hobbies, all the way to the unconventional chocolate-eating society. Some societies and the older institutions in the UK go back centuries. Others were formed weeks before you joined the Freshers' Fair. Well, one walks through the concourse excited of all the possibilities, knowing full well that it's only worth investing your time in one or two. And you have to sort of sprinkle down the nerves of excitement at every next option. Oh yes, I've always thought that I belong to this party or this political party. Or it would be nice to learn this language. Or as long as I don't have to do mountain climbing in winter, I might give it a try. Or whatever that society's name means, it sounds great, why don't I try it? Those guys look cool. Then, through all the possibilities, the banners, the sign-up sheets, my next spouse presented herself. She was the demonstration of the rumba, put on by the university's Ballroom and Latin Dancing Society. I did not know its name, but it cast an instant spell on me. Watching the rumba for the first time was like being suddenly convulsed by the pain of an intense stomachache, except instead of pain, it was delight. Like a magic potion with potent ingredients of spiritual pleasure, intense sexuality, sporting athleticism, structured choreography, and add into that mystery and personality. Something deep in me shifted in an instant. That's what I want to look like, my spirit cried. The window shopping of the Freshers' Fair ended that instant. Such was my conversion that within a month I had not only joined the society but had enrolled for my first competition in the beginners category. Even after a month, I still could not confidently tell my left foot from my right. I even remember my partner's expression at our first competition, "Oh my word, what are you doing?" After every 5 seconds, at every one of my mistakes. It did not matter. I knew I would not be transformed into a dancer overnight. And to match what I had seen in Freshers Week, I knew that months, maybe even years, stood between me. Nevertheless, I had at least danced the first step, and henceforward all the discipline and the training that was so much a part of my energy and routine in my football days was simply transferred to dancing, and still is. Then, in my first year, came the larger competitions at Bath, then at Blackpool. The camaraderie of all the university dance teams, the atmosphere, the class, the style, the glamour, with all the dancers flocking here and there in spectacular dresses and costumes, and the judges all in their long glittery dresses and dinner suits. Even the presenters and band dressed likely. A ballroom and Latin dance competition would make a dinner banquet at Buckingham Palace look like a tea party. Competitions were basically like all-day dance parties, with the spectacle of a Victorian ball and the vibrancy of a nightclub. During the whole spectacle, which lasts from about 9 a.m. until midnight, I did not once feel the intense angst and tension of a football match. Yes, I was disappointed when I got knocked out, a little earlier, in the earlier rounds than what I thought, and my partner even more disappointed. But that failure did not get to me as it did in football. The feeling lasted a few moments. Then, before I knew it, I would have taken off my dance shoes, found a comfortable seat with a good view next to my friends, and watched the rest of the day's dancing, cheering for my friends who were still competing, and genuinely enjoying their successes, and absorbing every magical moment of every couple that flew past me, even if they were from different universities. Some making this sort of intense, playful eye contact with the audience as part of their whole performance. You could see the aim was not so much to dance to music and to learn a few steps, but to become the music through dance. Yet, even with all the excitement of dancing and watching dancing, the cheering, the audience, the great music, I was yet to behold the real spectacle. Sometime before the evening round, the competition stops and makes way for the professional demonstration. The announcement is made. All the competitors and members of the audience rush to their seats. The floor is empty. The hall is almost quiet. Anticipation fills the room like a giant fume. Then the head of ceremony starts by reading out the professional couple's most recent achievement. They finished third in this global competition in Hong Kong a few weeks ago, and that was after finishing sixth at that other championship in Milan, and so on and so on. And here is their cha-cha-cha. The spotlight blasts through the dimness of the room simultaneously with very beaty music that sets the audience clapping straight away. And immediately, two dancers soar onto the floor in synchronized lockstep. It is an experience that cannot be described. A multiplication, no, a transcendence from the Freshers' Fair demonstration. You see two human beings with bodies like mine, legs like mine, arms like mine, look like they are chassieing and lockstepping with effortless elegance. But because they're so close, the raw power and athleticism is almost terrifying. It's like watching the great wild cats flying through the savannah. They look so graceful, but make no mistake, these are really powerful animals. If the performance at Freshers' Fair was mesmerizing, the professional demonstration at the competition simply left one overcome. It was a revelation. It did not feel I just don't know how to describe it. It was as if something of heaven had touched earth. The professionals performed all 5 Latin dances. Every second of each dance left the mind begging, the eyes for answers, How can a mere forward step, which I do 1,000 times a day, be done like that? How can the human body bend and twist to rhythm with such precision and power? Just what have I been doing with my life until now? I don't wish to exaggerate my experience, if that's possible, but it's enough to say that the next competition could not come soon enough. And until this day, I feel the same way after every competition, regardless of my performances. Being part of the dance world for several hours a week after work on most evenings and, the competition every now and then now makes me happy to be alive in a way that football never did. Football just never made me feel this way. It does, of course, have its aesthetic value, its beauty. Just think of Zidane, Ronaldo, Okocha, Denilson, Messi, Ronaldo. There are some footballers and indeed some styles of play that quite frankly warm my heart and leave a lasting impression on me. Yes, even now I find myself going on YouTube to watch videos of Ronaldinho's best skills, and it is pure ecstasy to watch again and again. I love football for this. In the sophistication of team play with its different strategies and styles, I love the plot of seeing a game develop against everyone's plans and seeing how players and their coaches adjust to each changing situation. I'm arrested by the ever-growing heat of drama with a referee making the wrong decision and, this game-changing tackle that, gets a player sent off and breaks someone else's leg. And then, of course, football has its golden moments. That last-minute goal scored by your team that sends you screaming through the house in a fit of explosive joy that the body just can't contain. All the yelling, screaming, running around the house just aren't enough to get it all out. And inversely, of course, there is the utter devastation when the opposing team does that to yours. No, dancing does not have any of this. With footballers, you feel like you are among titans. Yes, football is a titanic sport. The duel between Ronaldo and Messi in an El Clasico, when, was Madrid versus Barcelona, the Ronaldo versus Messi is Hector versus Hercules. The season-long slog between two of the best teams in the league is Anthony versus Octavian. The conquest of titles by some new genius coach, Mourinho in his day and Guardiola who came afterwards, that is Alexander or Hannibal. Yes, with footballers you are with titans. With the dancers, however, you are with the cherubim. When watching the best footballers, you see your own strength, ability, skill and courage multiplied and exemplified by the best in the game, but it is still earthly. When watching the best dancers, however, simply as an observer, you are transcended and transformed, at least for a moment. There is one main distinction between the football and dancing world that I find most profound. The football world is vast, okay? It's not just about the number of followers, but also about the sheer scale of the industry, the size of the stadium, the salaries earned by players and coaches. The dancing world, however, is far more intimate. It is both global and yet it is family. There is little more that Messi or Ronaldo have sacrificed to be the best footballers that Joanna Lewinis or Maurizio Vescovo have not done to be the best at dancing. And we are a part of each other as dancers in a way that we are not as football fans, or footballers and football fans. A few months ago, I danced at the All England Championship. I saw Maurizio, who having retired is now a judge, and it's the closest I'd ever been to him. It meant a lot, I'd watched his videos, for so many years and been inspired by his performances. I wanted to meet him, so I simply walked up to him and asked for a selfie. He was most warm and affectionate about it. But most importantly, he looked surprised that I asked him for this selfie. The dancing world knows who Maurizio Vescovo is, but he would rarely get a selfie request when he turns up at a competition. There's little hoo-hawing in the family. Maurizio is just a part of us, just as much as the first-year beginner. And when football is played in the street or in a league game, it's not the same. There's something shared, yes, but we are still not a part of Mount Olympus, as it were. We are still mortals, mimicking the gods, and feel the weight of the mountain whenever we approach. However, if Maurizio himself did the professional demonstration at the university competition, the audience would still cheer more loudly for their friends, in whatever category, than they would for him. My dance partner and I recently joined a studio in central London where we can practice in the evenings, and lo and behold, Joanna Lewis, long since retired, turns up to either teach or practice. She doesn't compete anymore. She performs at shows. And yes, once a week, I share the floor with Joanna Lewis, arguably the best female Latin dancer of all time. And like in most practices, there would be absolutely nothing unusual about me going up to her in the middle of her practice and saying, "Hey Joanna, sorry to take a moment, but I've been trying to lunge and spin in this way, like, the way you did in 2012 in Blackpool, and I was just wondering whether you could spot where I'm struggling, something small." She would stop, and I'm confident that with the greatest courtesy, she would take a minute, probably not more, to just say, it's because you're not putting your heel down at that second beat or whatever. And, I haven't done this yet, guys. First, because, most of us aren't trying to do the things Joanna Lewin is just trying to do. And second, the stuff that we are trying to do, our fellow dancers and coaches are in a good place to help. So there's no need to disturb Joanna. But the point is, she walks into the training studio as I would. She's one of us. We are all one. The other day, my dance partner and I were talking about Nino Langella, and she said, I had dinner with him a few years ago when he was in Ukraine. "Dinner with Nino Langella?" I asked. "Well," replied my partner, "it wasn't personal or anything, but he was visiting and trained in our studio, and a group of us students and coaches went for dinner afterwards, and he joined us." Now, I saw Nino and his partner Andra. By the way, Andra used to dance with Maurizio. Anyway, I saw Nino and Andra at the Royal Albert Hall at the International Championships myself a few months ago, where they finished third. And at that moment, I felt I would have bowed prostrate before them had they so much as walked past me or even looked at me. They, along with all the other professional performers that day, left their entire audience awestruck by their supreme abilities. But other than that, we are one. Football may be a global language, but dancing, for me, has become a second language. I'm an average dancer, and even after over a decade since that Freshers' Fair, I would not consider myself to be even halfway between a beginner and the likes of Joanna and Maurizio and Nino. However, it is now a part of me, and I am a part of it, a part of them, a part of us. I dance when I'm happy, and I dance when I'm sad. I'll be just as excited to do my dance drills on holiday as when I do them every evening after work. And when I walk through the doors of the studio, and the dancers and coaches, they're scattered across the floor, both beginners and professionals alike. Some I know well, others I don't. Some walking in and out of the changing room, partners arguing with each other, couples conversing with each other, one or two coaches shouting at their students. With all that, I walk in and I feel at home.